Marissa had never imagined she would end up sleeping in Carla's house. It was supposed to be temporary, just a few nights while workers fixed the water damage in her apartment. A pipe had burst above her bedroom ceiling, and her landlord told her it would take at least a week to dry and repair everything. Her husband, Lucas, was away on a work trip, so when his older sister Carla offered her a room to stay, Marissa had said yes. Carla had always been polite. Helpful, even. She kept to herself, lived in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town, and worked from home as a freelance accountant. She was a bit reserved, but never rude. Marissa didn't know her very well, though. In 5 years of marriage, she'd only met Carla a handful of times, and each time, she noticed something slightly off. Carla never talked about her past. She never had visitors. And there was something cold in her eyes that didn't match her warm words. Still, Marissa wasn't the type to judge people too quickly. She needed a place to stay, and Carla had offered a guest room. So that's where she found herself one gray, cloudy afternoon, dragging her suitcase up the porch steps of Carla's old house with peeling paint and silent halls. "Let me show you the room," Carla said, smiling as she opened the front door. "It's upstairs. I haven't had guests in a while, but it's clean." The guest room was small, with beige walls, one window, and a queen-sized wooden bed that sat near the wall. A small nightstand and a lamp were the only decorations. The house was strangely quiet, no music, no TV sounds. Just ticking clocks and distant creaks from old floorboards. Marissa thanked her and unpacked some clothes, laying them neatly in the drawers. Carla had made her some tea, and they spoke briefly over dinner. Carla didn't ask many questions. She seemed distracted, like she was always thinking about something else. Her eyes kept shifting toward the hallway, then quickly looking away. That night, after showering and brushing her teeth, Marissa settled into the bed. It creaked slightly when she sat. She adjusted the pillows, turned off the lamp, and lay in the dark, listening to the wind outside. But something didn't feel right. She turned to her side. The mattress dipped slightly more on the right. She turned to the other side. Still uneven. She pushed herself up and sat on the edge of the bed, frowning. Maybe one of the legs was shorter. She knelt down beside the bed and peeked under. It was darker than she expected, but her phone flashlight helped. Nothing seemed broken, but she noticed something near the far back corner, a small shoe. Marissa blinked and reached out. It was dusty. Worn out. Pink, with a small flower near the strap. A child's shoe. Her heart paused. She pulled it out slowly and looked at it under the light. It wasn't a recent model. The rubber was cracked, and the fabric looked faded, like it had been forgotten there for years. But why would it be under the guest bed? Carla didn't have children. She never spoke about children. In fact, she always avoided conversations about family in general. A strange thought passed through Marissa's mind. Maybe it belonged to a visitor. But who? And why would just one shoe be under the bed? Suddenly, she felt a chill. She turned and looked under the bed again, deeper this time. And that's when she saw it. A second shoe. Same color. Same size. Now her hands were trembling. She picked it up too. Together, the shoes looked like they belonged to a little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old. The kind of shoes you'd wear to school or church. Marissa sat back on the floor and stared at them. Her breathing was shallow now. Was it possible Carla used to have a child? Maybe she lost her. Maybe she had a daughter no one talked about. But if that was true, why were the shoes hidden under the bed, not in a memory box, not in a closet, but pushed into the far corner like someone didn't want them to be found? Marissa placed the shoes beside her suitcase and tried to sleep. But sleep didn't come easily. She kept hearing faint creaks in the hallway. And once, she thought she heard something else, a soft thump above her, like someone walking in the attic. She sat up and looked at the ceiling, but the sound was gone. Maybe it was just an old house settling. Maybe the wind. But then she remembered the way Carla had looked at the hallway earlier. The way her eyes had shifted, like she was watching something. Marissa decided not to say anything the next morning. Not yet. She wanted to know more first. She wanted to know who Emily was. Except, she didn't know that name yet. That would come later. Right now, she only knew one thing for sure: those shoes didn't belong under that bed. And someone had put them there on purpose. And whoever that someone was, they never expected her to find them. Marissa woke up early the next morning, but her mind hadn't rested at all. She kept thinking about those little shoes. The way they were buried under the guest bed, dusty, forgotten, hidden like they were never meant to be seen again. She couldn't stop wondering, whose were they? Why were they left there? What was Carla hiding? When she walked into the kitchen, Carla was already pouring coffee. She wore the same tired cardigan and kept her eyes low, as usual. "Did you sleep well?" Carla asked without looking up. Marissa hesitated. "Yeah, the bed was a little uneven, though." Carla froze for half a second. It was so quick, most people wouldn't notice. But Marissa did. "Oh, it's old," Carla said quietly. "I should probably get it replaced." She handed Marissa a cup and quickly changed the subject, asking if she needed help getting back to her apartment later that week. But Marissa's thoughts were elsewhere. She decided not to mention the shoes yet. Not until she knew more. That evening, while Carla was still in her home office working on taxes for a client, Marissa returned to the guest room with one goal: she needed to check again under the bed. Not just for answers, but for anything that could explain what she had found. She turned on the lamp, moved her suitcase out of the way, and slowly dragged the bed frame away from the wall. It was heavier than she expected, and the legs scraped softly across the wooden floor. Once it was clear, she dropped to her knees and began examining the floorboards more closely. That's when she noticed it. One of the wooden panels beneath where the bed had sat didn't match the others. It was slightly darker. Slightly shorter. Almost like it had been cut. She knocked on it. It gave a hollow sound, different from the rest. Her heart pounded. She fetched a spoon from her bag and wedged the edge between the floorboards. It took some wiggling, but finally the panel creaked and popped open. Underneath was a shallow square space. And inside it was a small wooden box, rough, plain, and about the size of a shoebox. It had a rusty lock on the front. Marissa's hands trembled as she held it. The box was light but clearly sealed. She didn't want to make noise, so instead of taking it to Carla's room or the kitchen, she tiptoed into the bathroom, closed the door gently, and sat on the edge of the tub with the box on her lap. She took a bobby pin from her hair and began working on the old lock. It was stiff. Every twist made her more nervous. Her hands were sweaty. But after a few minutes, she heard a faint click. The lock snapped open. She held her breath. And slowly lifted the lid. Inside was a bundle of items. Not many, but each one strange in its own way. On top were several Polaroid photos. They were dusty, but still clear. The first one showed a little girl, maybe 7 years old, standing outside a brick house. She had curly brown hair, a pink dress, and sad eyes. Marissa's stomach turned. She flipped to the next photo. The same girl, now in a hallway. The wallpaper behind her matched the one in Carla's upstairs hallway. In another picture, the girl was asleep. But Marissa could see the pattern on the bedsheet. It was the same one she was sleeping on. Marissa felt the room spin. This child had been in the house. This child had slept in the very bed she was now staying in. She kept flipping through the pictures. All of them were of the same girl. Always alone. Never smiling. And then she noticed the back of one of the photos had writing on it. One name. In faded ink. Emily. Marissa whispered the name aloud, almost afraid to hear it echo. Emily. She looked through the rest of the box. Under the photos was a handwritten note, folded in half. The handwriting was messy, almost rushed. The paper was yellowed. It read, She wouldn't stop crying. Even when I fed her. Even when I read to her. She kept saying she missed her mom. I told her to be quiet. I told her to behave. I told her I was doing my best. But she wouldn't stop crying. The note ended there. No name. No signature. Marissa's hands were ice cold now. Who wrote that? Was it Carla? Was it someone else? And where was Emily now? She carefully placed the note back in the box and stared at it, heart racing. This wasn't just a forgotten keepsake box. This was a secret someone tried to bury. She knew she needed to talk to Carla. To ask her directly. But how? How do you ask someone if they once had a child who disappeared? How do you ask someone if they locked a girl in a room and made her cry herself to sleep? Marissa returned the box to her bag and walked slowly back into the hallway. The house was too quiet now. The air felt heavier. She passed Carla's office. The door was slightly ajar. She could hear the soft tapping of keyboard keys and the scratch of a pen. But something else made her stop. A noise. From above. From the attic. A faint thud. Followed by the soft sound of something dragging. Then silence. Marissa's breath caught in her throat. She stepped back into the guest room and locked the door behind her. Whatever was happening in this house, she wasn't imagining it. And now, she had proof. The photos. The name. The note. Emily had been here. And someone had tried to erase her from memory. But they failed. Because now Marissa knew her name. And she wasn't going to forget it. Marissa couldn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Emily. That little girl with curly brown hair, wearing a pink dress, standing alone in the hallway of the house. The same hallway she now walked through every day. The same hallway that led to Carla's office, to the attic, and to the guest room where she now lay wide awake. She had found too much to ignore. The Polaroid photos. The handwritten note about a crying child. The name, Emily. And worst of all, the uneasy silence in Carla's house that suddenly didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like something was hiding inside it. Marissa lay in bed, gripping her phone tightly. She wanted to call her husband, Lucas. But he was still on the plane. She didn't want to leave a voicemail he couldn't answer. And what would she even say? Hey, I think your sister might have hidden a child in this house. No. She had to talk to Carla directly. She had to know the truth. The next morning, Carla was already in the kitchen when Marissa came downstairs. She was stirring something in a pot, but her movements were stiff. Her back was turned. Her posture tense. Morning, Marissa said, trying to sound normal. Carla didn't turn. Good morning. Marissa walked to the table and slowly placed the Polaroid photos down, face up. Carla froze. She didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she turned around. Her eyes dropped to the pictures. Her hands trembled. Her lip twitched slightly, but she didn't blink. Marissa sat down. I found them under the bed, she said gently. In a box. Hidden under the floorboard. Carla said nothing. I just want to understand, Marissa continued. Who is Emily? Carla closed her eyes. Her shoulders sank. She let out a long, shaky breath. Then she whispered something Marissa never expected. She's mine. Marissa's chest tightened. Carla pulled out a chair and sat down across from her, still staring at the photos. I was 19 when I had her, Carla said quietly. She was my world, but I wasn't ready to be a mother. I didn't have support. Her father didn't want anything to do with us. My own parents were embarrassed. I didn't have a job back then. I lived in the same house, alone, just like now. Marissa listened carefully. She could feel the weight in Carla's voice, regret, sadness, exhaustion. Carla looked up. I tried my best. I really did. I fed her, played with her, sang to her at night. But it was hard. She cried a lot. She missed her dad. And I didn't know how to be enough. Tears welled up in her eyes. They told me giving her up would be better. That I'd ruin her life if I kept her. So, I signed the papers. She went into foster care. I thought I was doing the right thing. Marissa asked softly, "So, what happened after?" Carla looked down at her hands. I thought she was safe. I kept checking in, until one day they said she had been placed in a permanent home. But they wouldn't tell me where. They said I had no right to know. She paused. Her voice got quieter. Then, about a year ago, someone knocked on my door. It was raining. I opened it, and there she was. Soaked. Thin. Tired. But I recognized her eyes instantly. Marissa's heart dropped. It was Emily. Carla nodded. She was 16 by then. She said she'd been bounced around foster homes. Said none of them felt like home. She had run away from the last one. Somehow, she found this address. Said she just wanted to see me. Just wanted to know why I left her. Carla's voice cracked. I didn't know what to say. I was ashamed. I told her I never stopped thinking about her. That I loved her. She stayed for a while. A few days turned into weeks. I started homeschooling her. I didn't tell anyone she was here. I didn't want the system to take her again. Marissa's eyes welled with tears. What happened to her? Carla didn't answer. She just looked away. Marissa's voice grew more serious. Carla, where is she now? Silence. And then, Carla stood up and walked toward the hallway. Marissa followed. They passed Carla's office, then stopped at the end of the hall where an old bookshelf stood against the wall. Carla reached behind it and pressed something, a click. A narrow wooden door, nearly invisible to the eye, slowly opened. Behind it was a staircase, steep, narrow, and leading down. Marissa followed, each step creaking under her feet. The air grew colder. Damp. Dusty. At the bottom was a small basement. Not the kind you'd use for laundry or tools. The kind that was built long ago. Stone walls. A single hanging light bulb. A mattress on the floor. A stuffed animal in the corner. Drawings taped to the wall, crayon drawings of a girl and a woman holding hands. One had Emily plus Mommy written in shaky letters. Marissa turned around. Carla was standing in the doorway, her face pale. She wanted to stay, Carla said. She begged me not to let them take her again. Marissa whispered, but Carla, this isn't a bedroom. Carla looked down, ashamed. She said she liked the basement. Said it made her feel safe. I never forced her. I swear. She came and went as she wanted. But then one day, she just didn't come back. Marissa felt her skin go cold. What do you mean? Carla walked slowly into the room and sat on the mattress. It was a Thursday. She said she was going out to buy art supplies. I gave her some cash. But she never came back. I searched. I called every hospital. I didn't call the police because I was afraid. Afraid I'd get arrested. Afraid they'd think I kidnapped her. Marissa covered her mouth. She's still missing? Carla nodded, her eyes red. I check the news every day. I search online. I still wait at the door sometimes, hoping I'll hear her voice again. Marissa looked at the room one more time. Something about it still felt wrong. Yes, maybe Emily chose to be here. But there were no windows. No lock on the inside. No calendar. No phone charger. Just that mattress. That bear. And a small notebook filled with drawings, no dates, no names. She stepped back. I believe you cared about her, Marissa said gently. But you still kept her hidden. You still let her sleep in the dark. Carla didn't argue. She just stared at the stuffed bear in the corner and whispered. She called it Daisy. Marissa knew this wasn't the end of the story. Somewhere, Emily was still out there. Or something worse had happened. In the house, Carla's quiet, cold house, still held pieces of the truth that hadn't come out yet. Because while Carla told a sad story, something still didn't feel complete. Something was still missing. And Marissa could feel it, like a thread pulling at the back of her mind. She would find out what really happened. She had to. Because now, it wasn't just about curiosity. It was about Emily. And Emily's voice hadn't been heard in a very long time. For the next 2 days, Marissa couldn't stop thinking about that basement. She kept replaying everything Carla had said. The story about Emily returning. The weeks they spent together. The sudden disappearance. It all sounded tragic, but also incomplete. Too neat. Too convenient. And something about that hidden door behind the bookshelf, that cold, windowless basement, still haunted Marissa. If Emily had really been free to leave, why would she choose to live like that? Why hide her? Why not contact the authorities once she went missing? Too many questions still didn't have answers. Marissa waited until Carla left the house one morning. She said she had a dentist appointment, and once she was gone, Marissa grabbed the set of keys she had spotted in the kitchen drawer. Carla had left the door unlocked before, but Marissa didn't want to take any chances. She made her way down to the basement again. Slowly. Carefully. This time, she examined everything. She looked inside the dresser. It held only a few items, a crumpled sweater, a toothbrush, and a small notepad filled with childlike drawings. Each drawing was made with crayons, sometimes messy, sometimes dark. Most of them showed two figures, a woman and a girl. Always in the same house. One picture showed the girl behind a window, her mouth open like she was yelling. Another showed her holding the teddy bear, Daisy, with tears falling from her eyes. But there was something else, a calendar scribbled into the back of the notebook. Tiny lines. Days marked with XS. Some days had the word NO written in large shaky letters. Some had hearts. And then, halfway through the page, nothing. No more XS. No more marks. Just a blank space. Marissa's heart beat faster. It felt like someone had been counting the days, until something happened. She checked the corners of the room again. Something kept pulling her back to the stuffed bear in the corner. It was old and missing an eye. She picked it up. It was heavier than expected. She flipped it over and found a tear along the seam. Inside, a small flash drive. Marissa stared at it, frozen. She took it upstairs, locked herself in the guest room, and plugged it into her laptop. There were 4 video files. No names. Just numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. She clicked on the first one. It showed Emily, alive, sitting in that same basement. She looked pale. Her eyes puffy. She was talking to the camera. "My name is Emily," she said in a quiet voice. "I'm 16. I've been here for, I think 2 months. I don't know. There's no clock. I don't go outside anymore." Marissa covered her mouth. "I came here because I thought I'd feel safe," Emily continued. "But, she doesn't let me leave now. Not really. She says it's not safe out there. That I'll get taken again. But I think she's just afraid. Afraid I'll go away for good." The screen cut to black. The second video was similar. Emily looked thinner. "She brings me food. She says I'm her second chance. But sometimes, when I cry, she gets mad. Really mad. She says I'm ungrateful. That I should be happy I'm not in foster care anymore." Tears rolled down Emily's cheeks. "I miss my real mom. I don't even remember her face. I just remember her voice." The third video was darker. Emily was whispering now. She said, "I can't have pencils anymore. She says I use them to write things I'm not supposed to. So I hide them. I keep one under my mattress. Her voice broke. She locked the door yesterday. I banged and screamed for hours. She came back with food like nothing happened. I think something's wrong with her. Marissa felt sick. She opened the fourth video. Emily wasn't on camera this time. Just a shaky recording of the ceiling, then the wall, then the door. The sound of heavy breathing. A quiet sob. And then, Emily's voice. If someone finds this, I'm sorry. I tried to be good. I tried to make her happy. But I don't think she wants a daughter. I think she wants a doll. Click. The video ended. Marissa shut her laptop. Her hands were trembling. Carla had lied. She didn't just let Emily stay. She kept her there. Controlled her. Hid her. And Emily knew. She tried to leave. She tried to reach out. But Carla made her disappear. Marissa grabbed her phone and dialed Lucas, her husband. This time, he answered. Hey, he said, cheerful. Everything okay? I just landed. Lucas, she said, her voice shaking. You need to come to your sister's house. Now. What's wrong? Your sister lied. About everything. Emily was here. She made video recordings. She didn't just vanish. Carla was keeping her hidden. Controlling her. There was silence on the line. Wait, what are you saying? I don't know where Emily is now, Marissa whispered. But I know she didn't leave on her own. Lucas said he'd get there in 30 minutes. Marissa didn't wait. She called the police. She showed them the photos. The note. The flash drive. Everything. They took it seriously. That evening, police came to search the property. Carla returned home during the search, shocked to see officers on her front porch. What's going on? She asked. Marissa stood beside the police chief. You told me Emily left. That she walked away, Marissa said calmly. But you never told me about the basement videos. Carla's face turned pale. Her lips parted. She recorded herself? The officer stepped forward. Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us and answer some questions. They brought dogs. They searched the house. The yard. The surrounding woods. And that's when they found it. Behind the backyard tool shed, a shallow grave. Freshly dug. Lightly covered with leaves and old trash. Inside, wrapped in a thin sheet, were human remains. The dental records matched. It was Emily. Carla was arrested on the spot. Her face didn't change. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just said, she promised she'd never leave again. The entire neighborhood was shaken. Lucas couldn't believe it. I thought she was just quiet, he told the police. I never knew she was capable of this. Marissa gave the recordings to the court. The story went viral. News stations lined the street. People lit candles for Emily. Children left flowers at the house's gate. But nothing could bring her back. Carla was charged with unlawful imprisonment, child endangerment, and second-degree murder. During the trial, she said one final thing to the judge. I just wanted a daughter who would stay. The courtroom was silent. And in the very front row, Marissa sat holding the bear named Daisy. She didn't know why she kept it. Maybe as a reminder. Maybe because someone had to remember Emily's voice. Not as a victim. But as a girl who fought to be heard, even in the dark.